Hey everyone, welcome to the Endgame Podcast Season 2, where I bet you didn't know what you didn't know. I'm Dr. Ryan Wakeham, successful entrepreneur and your Endgame coach. Sit back, relax, and tune in for today's episode as we talk about turning setbacks into setups. How do you harness the power of adversity within business? Thank you all for joining today. Again, we're going to be talking about a really cool topic today. It's one we have gone over a little bit in the past, but just to kind of dig into this topic specifically deeper, it's this idea of power of kind of mindset and how we set ourselves up for success through a really strong kind of both physical or health set foundation, but also a really strong mindset foundation. For today's topic, or what we think about as we relate mindset here, is really that lens through which we take words matter, where we take opportunities. So again, setbacks, or maybe we'll reframe them as opportunities, and how we choose to look at those, setbacks, also how what we choose to do with the information, right? So much of one's success, again, as we talk often about both it being personal and or professional, has to do with the lens or the perspective through which that individual views the world or views a situation, or in this circumstance, views an opportunity. Again, kind of reframing from the word setback. But there can be many setbacks, and these can happen in life generally. They can happen, again, both personally and professionally. But the reality is, setbacks will happen, right? It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And at some point in your life, you will fall upon, I always say, patience. Life will throw you a curveball, right? Things will be going just fine, and then suddenly things will not be going just fine. And often it is an entrepreneur who has to be able to, I've said this, but dance in traffic, right? This capability of putting on one hat, taking off another, rapidly shifting between being maybe a caregiver or a professional in your job to being the small business owner, to being the, accountant, to being HR. And this ability to kind of pivot and spin plates and dance in traffic is actually one of the, in my opinion, one of the strongest characteristics or personality traits that really allows an entrepreneur to continue to exceed or excel. So again, as we think about setbacks or opportunities can be internal versus external. They can be personal or professional, and they can come in many different flavors, right? So a setback or an opportunity could be financial in nature, could revolve around capital expenditures or budgets or banking opportunities or loan opportunities. Again, equity versus debt financing. So setbacks can be financial in nature. They can be part of your product or part of your service line. So you could have a setback in a billing code. You could have a setback in this widget you've developed no longer is of use for some reason, or regulation came about. Again, opportunities can be competitive in nature. So it could be, hey, you're a pizza shop and another pizza shop opened up right down the road or right next door. And opportunities or setbacks can be critical in nature. So they could be truly disruptive to your business or truly disruptive to your personal life. As I said, these opportunities or setbacks can come in a multitude of flavors. They can be both within oneself or external to oneself. And of course, they can always be either personal and or professional. And as I said at the top of this, the single most important thing we can do with any opportunity is change the view, or to modulate the view through which, the lens through which we view it, right? So our mindset about that, or our perspective, is so important, right? And perspective is everything. Perspective is reality. And so how you choose to view it, how you choose to process it, how you choose to review it, how you choose to handle it, are all very highly tied to the lens through which you're viewing it, right? So this idea of, if you look at a setback as a setback and not an opportunity, so that is very much the mindset shift, right? So taking something that has a negative connotation and providing it a positive connotation can go a really long way. That simple act of reframing can go an incredibly long way in ensuring success, right? Or to helping to enhance the chances you will be successful. This is just quite honestly the difference between a pessimist and an optimist. And I will tell you, across the board with different CEOs I worked with and different entrepreneurs and business individuals, those who tend to skew optimistic as compared to pessimistic do tend to have better results, better outcomes, the more likely to stretch beyond their kind of their typical boundaries and do something disruptive or different. Optimistic viewpoints and reframing and perspective in that all make a huge difference. So again, how we choose to reframe or perceive that event or that opportunity or that quote unquote setback is important. One thing, we can often use questions to help us reframe. So rather than just trying to make yourself think about it differently, you can ask yourself questions. And, one of my mentors once told me, or has many times told me, the power of your life or the quality of your life comes down to the power of the questions you ask yourself. And if you're willing to ask yourself incredibly powerful questions, you're likely going to get incredibly powerful or just generally incredible results, right? So reframing the setback is really important. So rather than, sometimes it's kind of put out there, and I don't love this term, but this idea of like, why me, or the kind of lay blame, or, again, I don't love it, but the victim mentality. So this idea of how do you turn the why me, oh, woe is me, me into what's great about this? What is something I will learn from this? How can I take this event or this situation and truly spin it or change it in a way that becomes positive, right? Just simply taking the negative connotation or the kind of to me mentality, rather than being at the effect of something external or internal, affecting it yourself, right? So you actually having a say in the story being told, you actually injecting yourself into the situation in a way where you learn lessons, you capitalize on opportunities, and you don't fail or have a setback. Rather, you succeed, learn, achieve, and be better, right? So reframing really matters, and how you view the situation. And again, the power of the questions you ask yourself about the situation will end up mattering a whole lot as it relates to what the outcome will look like and what ultimately will end up happening as a lesson learned from the situation itself. As I said, one of these techniques, this idea of kind of transforming adversity into advantage, is a lot to do with framing. Learning from prior, again, we'll call it failures just so that everyone understands what I'm talking about. Learning from failures or mistakes, understanding that, again, how you view those and the words you use matter, become really important in how you turn adversity into an advantage, right? So as I said, extracting lessons learned very quickly, not spending a whole lot of time. I used to say, or still say, kind of the BS in between the PS. So your BS or your belief systems and the things that get in your way in between the problem and the solution, right? So many individuals spend so much time in turmoil in between what the problem is or was, or what the opportunity is or was, and then what the solution is or was, right? Rather than kind of getting into a solution oriented mindset, they, again, the woe is me, the why me, the spend a ton of time wasting a bunch of time and energy in the BS between the PS. Whereas if you can very quickly reframe, very quickly lesson learn, very quickly pivot, that is, again, if you spend less time and energy on the problem and more time and energy on getting to solution orientation, you're much more likely to turn the adversity into an advantage. We've talked about it before, but another thing that really sets people up for success here is the idea of building resilience. So, whether that is quality sleep or quality coping skills or physical health, and you are what you eat, and all the things we've talked about, or stimulation of your parasympathetic pathways, right? So we spend too much time sympathetically overtoned. But if you can build resilience through any or all of those pathways, then you're much more likely to be able to get to solution orientation. You're much more likely to be able to allow stressful events to, as the old adage says, roll off your back, and be able to move towards solution, move towards outcome, move towards improvement, and ultimately move towards success, right? So we're always trying to point forward, not backward. And the way in which we do that, again, turn the adversity into advantage, has to do with how we reframe things, how quickly we can get to solution orientation. And a lot of that relies heavily on the foundation of mindset and resilience that you should be building along the way, so that you have that resilience in the bank account for when difficult situations hit, right? Because again, when a curveball comes, you often don't know it's coming. And the sooner you can get past it through these different techniques and with less energy and time wasted, the more likely you will be setting yourself up for long-term success. Other things to be thinking about, just the framework or practicality of reframing and what looks like for setbacks or adversity. There's a couple of other kind of quick tips, which are, your ability to analyze, going back to kind of self-awareness and situational awareness. That becomes really important in tough situations, right? When we can be emotionally sound and have a really great emotional state, even in adversity, that is part of that recipe for success in terms of better outcomes and overall lessons learned in taking these adversities and turning them into advantages. Your ability to adapt, right? So again, dancing in traffic, pivoting quickly, getting to the solution orientation quickly, how you might be able to innovate. Innovation can be something as simple as who you surround yourself with and not making kind of quick emotional decisions. But innovation can be obviously much more innovative than that. There are innovations as it relates to your product, for instance. And usually pressure and stress and kind of this orientation towards action lend itself to being more innovative, especially for someone who embodies those characteristics and is in and of themselves an entrepreneur. So your ability to analyze, be self-aware, situationally aware, your ability to adapt and innovate become really critical here. And again, that goes back to the ability to pivot quickly, to learn quickly, and to get to orientation of solution very quickly. And then, of course, strategy, right? So if you're going to ask yourself powerful questions and reframe and put yourself in a position to be successful and move forward, having the move forward without a plan, having the move forward without a strategy will only go so far. And you'll find yourself in positions where, again, you may be really good at getting to solution orientation, but then you don't actually get to solution because you haven't come up with a plan, you haven't put an action in place, you haven't held yourself accountable necessarily to a short timeline, and ultimately you haven't strategized and got that to where you need it to be. So just to highlight a couple things here as we think about how we go from adversity to advantage, how we take a setback and turn it into an opportunity. We start with the perspective, right? The lens through which we view it. Arguably, actually, we kind of take a step back and we start with the foundation of a healthy mindset, a positive mindset, a mindset of gratitude and greatness. We then build upon it through the reframing and the lens and the perspective we choose to use. We can use powerful questions to help us with reframing. We then got to think about the BS between the PS, right? So we don't want to spend a ton of time and energy on the problem or immediately around the problem. We want to get to solution orientation as quickly as possible. In ways in which we can do that include your ability to be self-aware, to be emotionally sound and stable in a state of otherwise high stress, your ability to adapt and innovate and pivot very quickly. Again, your ability to have reserves of resilience in the bank through different actions you take day to day. And ultimately, getting from the problem to solution orientation will only get you so far. So having that mindset will only go so far unless you really have a plan, an action, a strategy as to how you actually execute on the outcome you desire. Thank you for listening. Please like, subscribe, share the episode. Once again, I'm Dr. Ryan Wakeham, successful entrepreneur and your endgame coach. I'm here to teach you how to exist today so you may expand tomorrow and create the ultimate endgame of your wildest desires. Talk to you soon.